Today we have a distinguished guest, Philippe Williams. He graduated from Oxford with a master's degree majoring in philosophy, politics, and economy. He is now the HR director in Swire Group, both in Hong Kong and in UK branch. Hello, sir. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I know that you have traveled to China several times. Can you tell me which city specifically have you ever been to?
I lived in Hong Kong a total of about 15 years, 4 different times. And on the mainland, I've traveled to Beijing and Shanghai, obviously to Shenzhen and Guangdong. I've been to Chengdu recently, which was great fun. We have the Swire Group has a new development in Chengdu, in an old historic part of the city. And so that was very interesting to stay there. And I also went to see the pandas outside Chengdu in a panda sanctuary. And I got to feed the pandas, and my son and my wife got to sit next to a panda. And the panda was very friendly, and the panda put his paws on their legs and offered them some bamboo. So that was quite nice, very interesting and good fun.
Looking back, what are the key developments that have happened in China in your area?
I should start by saying that the Swire Group employs over 33,000 people now in China, in property, in aviation, in bottling, in aero engineering. So we have many different areas. I think some of the developments in China on the human resource side are very interesting. The population as a whole, in terms of its qualifications, has improved its skill level enormously. I'll give you an example. In aero engineering in Xiamen, where we have about 6 aircraft hangars, and we employ thousands of people there. When we first went there, we needed to have a big transfer of knowledge and skills. And now we find that the people that we have there are extremely well qualified, highly productive, and they are actually helping us in other parts of Asia to develop our services. So there's been a big progression from that point of view. I think that in the big cities like Beijing and Shanghai, there's a fierce competition for talent and for finding qualified people. So not only foreign enterprises, but local enterprises are looking for highly trained and well-qualified graduates, and we're all battling for the same people. So that's extremely interesting as well.
With the Brexit, what's the difficulties and the challenges where you foresee with the Sino-UK relationship?
Well, I think that the Sino-UK relationship is a very strong one, and it spans business, culture, academics, politics and diplomacy. There will always be ups and downs in that relationship, but I think that the two countries are sensible and well governed, and I believe that over the long term, our relationship will continue to be strong and will deepen in all of those areas. Even in the background of Brexit, which obviously makes life more complicated for the UK government, I think that trade ties will continue to be strengthened. And I think that all the links that we currently have, whether it's on the diplomatic or academic or cultural sides, will continue. So I think over the long term, I don't think that we need to worry. But in the short term, of course, who knows what is around the corner? There's always some exciting political development waiting, behind the scenes to make our life more challenging.
I'm sure you have some Chinese friends and colleagues. And can you share me an interesting story while you're working with them?
I think my Chinese colleagues are extremely dedicated to their work. I think that they tend to work extremely hard. They're very professional. I know that in Hong Kong, where I've worked for many years, you'll find people that never stop working, and you have to try and discourage them from working too much. But in general, both in Hong Kong and in the mainland, I find people to be cooperative and professional, dedicated to their work. They're also very polite in my experience, which is good for a foreigner if you're working in a different environment. And I've certainly found that Chinese people have a very good sense of humor. So when I'm in Beijing or Shanghai or Chengdu, we always go out and we have a very good time and we laugh a lot. Maybe because my Chinese is not very good, so they laugh at that. But it's a pleasant environment to work in.
In the past, Sibyl and the Swire Group have a strong connection. How can Sibyl help you and your group in the future?
I think that Sibyl plays a very constructive role, both in education and also in extending understanding of China and Chinese culture in the foreign community, particularly in the business community. And that's not just in terms of helping with language training, but it's also teaching people about Chinese culture, how to behave in business, what is the best approach, how you communicate, which are very practical things. But I think Sibyl also has a more cultural side to it, which is to try and teach particularly foreigners about Chinese history, Chinese customs, and Chinese culture, which of course is fascinating. And I think business people always appreciate to be able to see that side of things, as well as the more dry economic side of life.
As a leading multinational company, can you give me a brief introduction of what Swire Group did in China in the past 100 years?
Yes, definitely. The Swire Group started in China in 1866. So last year we celebrated our 150th anniversary of business in China. A gentleman called John Swire set up the first office in China in that year. And we started with trading. We were into shipping as well. We had a big insurance business for over 130 years. And more recently, starting from the late 1980s and early 1990s, we've been investing in aviation. So Cathay Pacific flies to China, as you probably know. We have a big aero engineering facility in Xiamen. Swire Properties have developments in Chengdu, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Beijing, and other places. And we're probably the biggest bottler of Coca-Cola drinks in the whole of China. And amongst other services, you see that we're quite spread out and very involved with the Chinese economy, and hopefully we'll continue to grow with the Chinese economy and prosper along with it.
As a father of a 17-year-old boy, will you encourage him to learn Mandarin?
Definitely. My son has traveled with me to China, along with my wife. We've been to Chengdu to see the pandas, and he's been to Beijing also, and he's lived in Hong Kong a long time. He's currently at school in the UK, but actually his two best friends are Chinese, so he's definitely interested in learning the Chinese language. He's a beginner, and I'm hoping that the Confucius Institute will help him along this path and encourage him to learn the language, and I think he'll be quite keen to do so.